finish calling roll.
Yes, ma'am.
So at this particular time, we're going to get ready to turn it over to our city manager's hand, Mr. Griffith, for budget discussions.
Thank you, Mayor. I think our building took a lightning hit at some point in time since the last time we met up here, so we were having to scramble today, and but I think we've got most everything up and running at this point in time. We seem to have lost Dr. Lee, so I'll see if I can get her back up on the Zoom meeting. But what we want to do for the first part of the budget work session is typically you all have the opportunity to hear from the directors of the outside agencies that we fund. Because of COVID playing havoc on our budget process this year, you all did not have the opportunity to do that. We have put figures in the proposed budget for these outside agencies, but I did want to give them the opportunity to come up and to talk with you about what was going on in their agency, to entertain any questions that you may have, and also to share with you what their budget request was, why it was what it was, and then entertain any questions you have of me as to why we put the figure in there that we did. So with that said, we have a presentation up on the screen from the Twin Lakes Library System, so I'm going to ask Stephen Hauser to come up and do his presentation for you all.
Thank you, Hank. Thank you, Mayor and Council. I appreciate y'all having me up here today. I'll just start with saying, normally I'd be up here, I'd be talking over our numbers and talking about how many circulations and patrons we had through the door. I'm not going to have that this time. Things are different. I'm going to talk about what we've been doing since COVID hit and then what we plan to do on into the future. So first, I want to talk about our staff. They've been really fantastic throughout all this. They've turned on a dime to change the way that they provide services. We had our building closed down March 18th. By March 24th, we started virtual programming, doing it from Facebook and letting people participate in library programs for the comfort of their home. Like it says up there, we have 15 part-time staff, 8 full-time, including myself. So as I said, we started March 24th with virtual programming. Since then, we've had over 50 virtual programs, 16,000 views. This is on Instagram and Facebook. Our posts have reached over 80,000 people. We've really made an active push to continue our services online for those folks that can access that, have that continuity of library services while we can. We also were focusing on the access for folks that maybe don't have internet at home. So we've got TV white space that we've talked about before in our parks that you all have cooperated with us on to let us put that equipment there so folks can access free Wi-Fi from the Greenway, from Hewley Park, and from Central City. We've also turned on the Wi-Fi outside our building, so it's on 24/7 for free in our parking lots. So we had good numbers for March. We've had good numbers for May, but April was really the first month where we had nothing but outside internet access. So we had over 2,000 people access our Wi-Fi just in that month alone. Additionally, staff have been working really hard to make sure that not only are these services available, but people can get books online and get our online resources. We created a new temporary digital card program. We've had hundreds of new patrons that have signed up for it through that. It's available through our website. And we've been partnering with Baldwin County School District to sign up every student in Baldwin County School District for a digital library card, so they can get access to our resources from home or from the community center, wherever they can access the internet. So this has been over 4,000 students, and it's been quite an undertaking for our staff to be able to do this, and many of them have been able to do that from their home. We've made it work so that they can have a laptop provided by the library and they can do the work that they need to do at home. We're about halfway through that project, maybe a little bit more than halfway. We're hoping to have an announcement soon that we'll be finished with that. But we started with the high school, so everybody at Baldwin High, every student at Baldwin High has a digital card. It gives them access to our 30,000 ebooks and audiobooks and digital resources. Additionally, we've been a site for school lunch distribution. I think we're one of the busiest sites as well. We have over 300 children served per day. They're there twice a week. They've reconfigured the parking and the lines a little bit. For a little while, we had the line going out onto Jefferson and turn around into Hancock, which I think I called Hank about and saying, this might be an issue, but they figured it out, and it's been very smooth. So we've been helping support them with that. I contacted them this afternoon, and we'll continue to be a site in the summer. We're also a member of the Chamber of Commerce's Presidency Task Force. We've been working on the Small Business Subcommittee to help support them during their needs, taking feedback from small business community on what they want, what they need, how they can navigate this crisis. So with our business incubator, we've been teaching workshops for entrepreneurs and for folks on personal finance. So this has been something that we've been able to utilize now for having a series of workshops for small businesses. So budgeting, access to resources, things like that. Our first program for this is Thursday. As you may have noted, our buildings are still closed. We had planned to be open potentially this week. We're working on refitting our current drive-through window at the Mary Benson Library. We had a grant from the state to help us pay for this work, but it will install a teller tray. This will be a kind of like you see at the bank or a pharmacy where there's minimal contact, maybe zero contact between the patrons and the staff, so there's no air going back and forth. We think this is a very safe way to provide services, and folks can come pick up books. We can do faxes, printing, things like that through that window. We hope to open the buildings as soon as we can, as soon as it's safe. We have a phased program, which I'll show on the next slide, but basically if once we open this drive-through, if the transmission rate slows for 2 weeks, we'll open the buildings on a limited basis. Unfortunately, it looks like the numbers might be going up, but we're keeping an eye on that. So this is basically our plan. We have different service levels here. One being the lowest service level, also the most severe. We've looked very hard at the CDC's transmission levels and how they judge that and what services we need to be offering. We have a number of vulnerable patrons. We have an elderly community that uses our library. We have children that come in the library. We had one of the first people that was diagnosed with COVID-19 in this community in our building the last day we were open. We consider ourselves to be a community center that has a particular vulnerability to this. So we're making sure that we play it safe. Right now we're on service level 2-ish, hoping to be on 3 here in the next week or so. And if things keep going the way they're going, if they start going down, in fact, we hope to open the buildings on a limited basis pretty soon. We really want to. We miss our patrons tremendously, but we're going to go play it safe and go by the CDC's recommendations. So what are our plans for next year? We are launching our first online summer reading club. It's a program called Beanstack, so we'll be sending that information out pretty soon. We're going to have flyers that are going to go out with the school lunches, hopefully in a couple weeks. And this will be a program that students and kids and parents can access online, and it's kind of gamified, so it's a fun way of getting them reading, getting them access to resources, but making it fun and encouraging that literacy. We're also going to work with local organizations like the Chamber to improve community resilience, workforce readiness, and broadband access. So for us, this is a big, important role that we can play. We do have a fiber broadband connection. We have TV white space in place in the parks, and we're looking to other technologies that we can incorporate to spread this in different community areas. This broadband access is important. I think it's an important service that we can provide. We're also looking into grants for hotspots so that we can help people check these out and have access at home. We're still, again, going to respond to the COVID-19 levels per CDC guidelines. So because of our service plan, we're able to scale up or scale down our services based on how severe the transmission is in the community. We think it gives us a good set of options to be flexible with that and help keep community safety and the safety of our library family in mind. And additionally, we're applying for and hopefully we'll receive state construction funding. We've got a number of projects on the Mary Benson that can be done now. We've put those requests in. I've heard from the governor that, or not from the governor, I haven't heard directly from the governor, excuse me, but I've heard that the governor has said that even though the general operating budget has to be balanced, that bond projects, which would fund the projects that we have here, he wants those to go into place. He wants there to be local jobs, local construction jobs happening as much as possible. So we've applied for those, and we're ready for getting this work July 1st if we get these grants. So this is work on the Mary Benson. This is potentially work on a new branch if and it'd be in the county, so that's their thing. But the Mary Benson needs a new roof, it needs a new elevator, and really a complete redesign. So we've applied for all that money. We're hopeful that we'll get some of it at least in the coming year. I'll mention the state real quick. We did receive a cut of about $30,000 from the state. They haven't finalized their budget yet, but that's what we plan on receiving this year. So that's materials money that we get from the state and money for other services. It's not salary, but we're already taking a hit from them. That's significant, but we hope that we can ride it out at the level it's at now. So I'll take any questions that y'all might have on our funding request.
How much of this difference do you see going forward if things get back to normal?
Difference in terms of
Of online services, of having the Wi-Fi transmission outside, and so on and so forth. A lot of the things that are happening that I see a lot of good in.
I do.
I see it in other aspects and throughout the community, and the state, and the nation. But just wondering.
No, I agree as well. I think a lot of the things that we've done, we've been having to innovate because of the challenges that have been presented before us. But I think the drive-through window is something that I see people using. The online services, the online summer reading club, it's something we wanted to do for a while, but there's been funding of it made available for it. It's really been a push for us to offer these services for folks that really maybe can't access the library building anyways, regardless of the situation. So I think we're going to keep a lot of it, honestly. We hope to have more people in the building. I think you may not read every detail on that table, but even if we do open the buildings, we're not going to have large gatherings. So all the summer reading club programs will be online, things like that. And though this presents challenges for us, it makes things more difficult for us to reach a number of patrons that we want to. It's going to be an opportunity to innovate. All right. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Stephen.
Thank you.
Thanks, Stephen. The work that you all did through service delivery for the Capital Improvement Fund for the library will help those construction funds that he was talking about go a lot further. So it's exciting that will be able to be used in those projects. Next is from Allied Arts, Brian Rinko, the Executive Director of Allied Arts. I failed to tell you that you have the funding requests from all of these agencies on the chair, in front of your chair, and you can read through those after tonight to see if you have any questions from those folks, even after their presentations tonight. But Brian?
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me here. I appreciate it, and thank you for your support throughout the years. I do want to focus a little bit about what we have done through the situation since closing our facilities. Like the library, we've transitioned to mostly online programming, where we've canceled or postponed events that were scheduled for March, April, May, and then even further on. We have tried to take what was previously scheduled and do outtakes or variations of those programs and use the artists that were scheduled in a different way to do videos and different types of programming and put those on our social media and our website to kind of augment and satisfy our patrons and our audience members' desire for arts programming. And it's been met with it's been well received by the public. We've gotten some really well manicured responses on our posts. So I've been very encouraged with that. And to answer your question, Mr. Chambers, we are planning on expanding that programming going forward because of the response from the public. We have found that that programming it's more like a behind the scenes and a bonus footage, if you will, like you see in feature movies. And folks really enjoy that. It's like a VIP experience for them. And we found that folks find that very, very valuable insight to the artist's thinking and the creative process. So we do plan on continuing that part of our programming. And it's pretty exciting even for me to hear, some of that process. So we do have some plans moving forward as far as reopening our facilities and programming. Right now we're consulting not only with the CDC, but other theaters and nonprofits around the state of Georgia and the United States, with arts and entertainment industry being the last industry that will reopen for business. We have a little bit more responsibility and time to plan and coordinate our events for the public. And plans and things change daily as far as policies and procedures for not only staff and volunteers, but also for the public. So we're having to be very careful in drawing up those plans and procedures, not only for the safety of our staff and volunteers, board members as well, but mainly for the public. So it's going to take us a little while to move through that policy and procedures document, but as soon as we get it polished enough, we're going to certainly make that public and put it on every piece of publication and get it out there to the public any opportunity we can, so that everyone's aware that we do have precautions in place and policies and procedures that we would like folks to follow to make sure everyone's safe. Moving on to our budget, last year we did receive an increase of about 5%, 5 or 6%, and we were able to increase our overall programs by about 20% up through March, which is significant. We could have increased that more if we were able to continue programming, but that also led to about a 25% increase in our attendance overall, which is significant in numbers. We reached over 16,000 people so far for the 3 quarters that we were operating, and we were able to increase our exhibits by over 40%, and our classes as well, with attendance in both increasing well over 20%. So your additional funding from last year went a long way, and I do appreciate it. Our board appreciates it very much. So,
Can I stop you just a minute and
absolutely.
ask you a question? On employees, on here I'm looking and it says you have 2 full-time and 2 part-time.
Yes, ma'am.
And for the year of 1920, it says it was $111,142 for the 19 through 20, right? And then it shows an increase in salaries for the next year, 2021. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, just to be honest with you, I have a problem with that because we have handed our budgets back to our department heads and asked them to cut their budgets, and we are not looking at giving our employees a raise.
Right.
So,
Please keep in mind, when I submitted this budget, it was in January before all of this happened.
Mm-hmm.
So I have not had the opportunity to resubmit a budget.
well, will you please get with Mr. Griffin and resubmit one?
Yes, ma'am.
Because I can't go along with giving entities raises and
Right.
more benefits than we are to our employees and to our department heads.
Right. Like I said, this budget was submitted back in January. I didn't have a crystal ball, and I can address we did ask for an increase of about $8,000. That was based on our increased programming and being able to reach more people with the increase that we got in the previous year. And doing all of that programming with such few staff, I felt like it was appropriate to give a 2% raise at that point. We haven't had a raise in several years, so that was my thinking and logic behind that. I certainly agree with you that if the city does not offer raises to its staff, that we should not get one either. So I am very much willing to work with Mr. Hank and revise this budget if given the opportunity.
Okay. As you know, we're responsible for public safety and fire and the police, the fire, the water, that all the people in this town get the benefit of, and the sewage, and those are top priority. At least to me, they are. So I would ask that you please get with Hank, and I wouldn't be in favor of giving one unless that we were able to do it for our employees.
Ms. Walden, the recommendation that came in your proposed budget does not include those figures. The recommendation would be for what their budget was in FY 19-20. So in the proposed budget that you got last Tuesday night, it did not include the raises that he initially asked for.
I know, I knew that, but then when I got this paper tonight, I saw that it was even more.
This is just what was sent to us for his initial request.
Okay.
I would like to make the council aware that we have received PPP funding for 8 weeks of payroll. That added up to a little over $21,000. We have received $40,000 for the interior restoration of the Marlar Cottage, which I'm hoping will begin in July. That will allow us to bring in resident artists for our summer camp programs, for our Baldwin County schools residencies, and for our residency programs within the community, and save us in hotel accommodations for those residencies, because often our residencies in the school systems and in the community are multi-day, requiring overnight stay in hotel and motels. So being able to renovate that space and have our artists stay in there would save considerable expenses there. So we're excited for that. And then I also have a little over $26,000 in outstanding grants that have been written that I won't know or be notified of until after July 1, whether or not we've been funded for, and those are all capital improvement grants. So we're excited for those, and hopeful that we'll receive those. And at this point, I don't want to take up any more of your time. If you all have any more questions of me, I'd be happy to answer them.
What do you, what's your charge down there with your, with Allied Arts when people rent that building?
We ask for $75, and that allows you 4 hours in the space. And we're considering, at the recommendation of Mr. Griffith, increasing that. And the reason being behind that is we would take the increase and put that into a rainy day fund for maintenance and operations.
That's a good idea.
For when we need to make repairs or modifications to the building.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
We can hear you. Go ahead, Dr. Lee.
You mentioned your summer classes. Will those be virtual or will they be face-to-face? Or do you know at this point?
Actually, Dr. Lee, we have canceled all but one of our summer camps.
Okay.
This year, we took a poll of our patrons and our Facebook followers, and about 95% of those people who responded, which was a considerable number, all said that they were not willing to send their children or grandchildren to any summer camp in Milledgeville or Baldwin County until next year. So armed with that information, I did not feel comfortable spending money on artists for camps that were not going to even break even.
Great. You're doing a fantastic job, though, and you're working very well with our children. I appreciate that, and thank you.
Thank you.
Brian, share with them the conversation that you and I had about the market flooring.
Yes.
The importance for that. I think I've still got to talk to Miss Danzy a little bit, but I think we may be able to help him out with that, because we obviously don't want people going in the market with the floor in the bad shape that it's in. And it's my understanding from Brian, that's the original flooring. So if it's made it this long, if we can put something in there that makes it that same amount of time, none of us will have to worry about it. But share with them a little bit about the flooring.
Be happy to. That Allen's Market building was built in 1911, and like Hank said, the floor is original. It has been refinished several times, so many times that it cannot be refinished again. It is a thin floor right now currently, and because it's been refinished so many times, the nails that are used to secure the floor to the joist below have begun to rust over the years by mopping and so on. And that rust has rotted the flooring, and that's creating holes, large holes that continue to get larger and larger. And we do rent out that building considerably. We've increased our rentals 33% over this last year to civic groups and private individuals for bridal showers and birthday parties, graduation parties, and the like. And it becomes a liability with ladies in high heels, children. And at this point, I'm really fearful for renting it out to the public for that liability. And I would like to get that floor replaced and have a little help with it if I can. I got an estimate of a little over $7,000. I don't need to replace the subfloor on it. I can go right up over top of the floor that's there now, thus saving us considerable expense.
Just to let you all know, we have some funding that we're able to keep from an administrative standpoint of hotel motel tax that is to be used for tourism. And I think we could easily say that this building could be used for tourism purposes and utilize some of that money to help repair that floor. Because when you stop and think about it, it's actually the city's building, so we need to repair it. So that it can be used. Brian, they do yeoman's work in making sure that the people that use it in the way that they should, and we want to make sure that we're limiting as much liability as possible with that. So we'll be looking at utilizing some of those funds to do this. I will not do that before I report that back to y'all, but I believe that we'll probably be able to do that outside of the normal budget.
All right, thank y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Council, if y'all would be so nice, let them finish their presentation out, then ask the questions. You can bring on
them. Our last presenter tonight is from the Boys and Girls Club, who has also been doing a lot of virtual work in the last 6 to 8 weeks, I think. And Miss Pamela Peak is going to come up and let you know what's going on with the Boys and Girls Club and talk to you a little bit about her funding request. Pamela?
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
And thank you all for giving me an opportunity to speak before you all on behalf of our Boys and Girls Club, boys and girls in our community. So thank you for that. Before I start, I do want to go ahead and present Mr. Hank and Mr. Bowe with a revised budget due to the COVID-19 response relief plan, program reopening plan that we've implemented, because we know that it has affected many people across the nation, and so we wanted to be sensitive to the needs of the entire community when it comes to what was most important. So we do have a revised budget on what we view as a potential loss, but a warranted loss, because we know that cuts will be made in certain areas. So I wanted to go ahead and give them that.
We'll make sure that everybody gets a copy of this
And it does have explanations as to why we felt there would be an increase or a decrease regarding the services that we offer in those, when it comes to our funding. So I am with the Boys and Girls Club. I'm Pamela Peak, the CEO. I've been with the organization for more than 31 years. I'm thankful for that, thanks to you all continued support. Throughout that year, I think we were right at about hands-on working with children, a little over 10,000 children in this community, and that is something I'm very proud of. And what that means is I'm looking at not kids that come in for a short period of time and leave. I'm looking at these 10,000 represent kids we've serviced for over 3 years consecutively. So that's how we look at our data and view whether or not we've actually made an impact on them. We don't want them for 1 year. We want them at least 3 years, and then we can see where we are when it comes to the services that we provide. I will not go into details about the services that we provide because it is in our packet, but I will say this: we did have a good year for 2019 based on the information that I did supply. Academically, we've always excelled. Our children have always done extremely well. We've always had more than 50% that made A honor roll throughout the year. We've always had a 90 percentile promotion rate. I think last year we may have had one child we know that was retained, one child that was placed over the academic year, and we do work with them throughout the entire school year. So we are very proud of that, because when you look at our organization, I have to tell parents, this is not a daycare. We're not here to babysit. Our mission is to enable all those who need us most to reach their full potential as positive, productive citizens. So that is what we do. We build character in our children. We build leadership skills in our children. We put career readiness opportunities before them through our Project Learn and STEM activities. We work on Georgia Shape, where they're more attentive to their health and well-being. So there are a variety of things that we bring to the table, and working with our school system is one of our primary goals, and making sure that we are molding the mind, not just the body. So we are thankful for that. So you may ask, how has COVID-19 affected our Boys and Girls Club? March 16th, 2020, we closed our doors to serving youth in person. So now we had to think about, what does this look like for our children, and how do we let them know that they still matter to us? So what we did, we started working with the school system first and serving as a hub to provide lunches for those children. Any children. We didn't care whether they came to the club or not. And what we did for our families, everybody that was as a club member, we contacted them personally and talked to them about the need to take advantage of this, especially when you went in these stores and everything was taken off the shelves. So we really encouraged our families to take advantage of this. It was a slow process starting out, and I will tell you now, at the end of the day, we have no lunches on the table. So we're very thankful for that. What we also had to do was look at how we provide physical services to our children. We did go to a virtual program. What did that look like? On Mondays and Wednesdays, we offered not just lunches, we did programs as well. And so some of our virtual programs we tried to make sure it was fun, because we knew that the children were frustrated. We also offered Power Hour, which is our homework tutorial assistance program, because one of our plans for our COVID-19 response reopening plan is COVID-19 learning loss recovery plan. We incorporated the loss that they didn't get academic hands-on within the school system. How do we help those kids who needed that one-on-one despite the fact that they cannot go to school? Well, we set aside personal time for them, and believe it or not, we was on the phone at night sometime on the virtual website with those kids and their parents. Now, if it was after operating hours, the parents had to be there, present, and accounted for. We held them accountable for doing their part in supporting the process as well, because the only way you can teach a child is to learn it yourself, and we know that the way they teach children nowadays is totally different from the way they taught kids 10 years ago. So we made sure that the parents were informed on the structure of the teaching, not just the children, so that they could help them when they weren't able to get onto the Zoom. Well, you may ask, well, everybody don't have computers. No, everybody don't. That's when we would get on the phone and make personal contact with those kids. If they weren't on Zoom, we made personal calls with them twice a week. First of all, how are you doing? Second of all, how can I help? And so when we did that, then we opened the doors to some little fun games, quizzes with them on the phone. We just really wanted to change the monotony of their day of being stuck in the house. One thing we did virtual Price is Right. And so we gave them items. They could win these items. If it was a bag of M&Ms, you be it higher or lower. That was the easy one. And I'm talking about they loved it. And so they had fun with that, and we know that this is what it takes for them to, but it also showed them the importance of being focused. So if you say higher and someone goes lower, higher, you're not focused. So it actually had a two-way fold and not just having fun, but they still learned the importance of focusing on the information at hand. So we had a lot of fun even with that. We did anti-bullying slogans where they did that. Of course, we did TikTok, don't rush, because everybody likes that. And so those things will be posted. And then we put some incentives in place to encourage the kids to continue to participate. Because we know that when you got an active child, and we had a lot of children that are very active and hyper, and if you don't do something or channel that energy in the right way, it can be very bad for them. And they themselves can have meltdowns. And this is one of the things we was encouraging our parents to take advantage of. We were planning to open back up June 15th. And of course, we have our executive order with Governor Kemp. And so that kind of pushed us back a little bit. And it's not a problem. It's just important that we make sure we have the proper PPE items in place to make sure that the staff are safe, the children are safe. What does that look like? On an average daily basis, we serve about 120 kids. Well, with social distancing in place, the max we'll be able to serve is 90. Well, we don't want to forget about that fateful 30. So we will continue to offer virtual programming even once we open our doors. And we're hoping, this is a tentative date, the board has not decided yet, to open those doors back up July 1st. But if it should not happen, we will continue with the virtual programming, so forth and so on. You may ask me, why did we not apply for the PPP money? We did not apply for the PPP money nor the SBA money because it conflicted with some federal grants we already had. And that was a temporary Band-Aid. And we had to look at the long-term funds that we're already secured for years over time, so we didn't want to go after PPP money that could conflict with our asking for reimbursements. So I had I had national staff trying to get me to, that's an easy fix. We got to look at the long term. If I lose my federal funding I have, it is hard to get federal dollars back, and we did not want to put those funds at risk. And all I ask at this point in time through our budget revision is that we're able to maintain what you are already supporting. And I think that is fair, and I feel like that we're all in this together no matter what, and that we know that some hard decisions have to be made at the end of the day. Are there any questions? Thank you all.
Thank you. Great job.
Continue to support all of you guys. We do know you all are carrying our precious cargoes in your different programs, and we definitely want to make sure we can do what we can do.
At this time, Mayor, I'll entertain any questions from council on the budget proposal that we have time to answer. We don't have a whole lot of time left, but during the time that we have, I'll be happy to answer any questions. And I think you'll be talking to them right before you adjourn, Mayor, about when we might meet the next time in terms of a budget work session to go forward.
I do want to make one comment, and it's not directly related to this, but to the three of you that just did what you did. I just want to commend you tremendously. I just see it so much everywhere. People learning to do things new and in different ways, and yet still are able to do your job. That's pretty amazing. I think if we get anything positive out of all this, maybe it's that the human spirit will win no matter what. And thank you very much. for an enlightening presentation.
Mr. Neese? Questions, comments?
I'm good right now. We really don't have that much time to jump into anything with the budget. Got about 5 minutes, I think.
So will that be all on this particular, okay, one, so. If there's no other questions, anything else to talk to in reference to budget discussion, I'll ask that the meeting be adjourned.
Mayor, before we adjourn, can we get council's pleasure on when our next work session, budget work session will be? I shared with you a scheduled draft when I did the presentation last week, but of course there's nothing magic or set in stone about those days. Based on that schedule, our next budget work session would be next Tuesday, June 2nd at 5:30. We can certainly have one prior to that if you all would like to, or we can go ahead and schedule it for Tuesday, June 2nd. So I need your direction from that to know how you want to proceed.
That works for me.
June 2nd. Dr. Lee, June 2nd, good with you?
That's fine with me.
Okay. All right. Well, Mrs. Denuza, if you'll get the information out about a call budget work session on June 2nd at 5:30.
There'll be nothing else. Call work session, ask for it to be adjourned. All right, everyone, I would like to call the May 26, 2020 City Council meeting to order. I'll ask the clerk to call the roll, please.
Mr. Mullins?
Here.
Mr. Chambers?
Here.
Dr. Lee?
Here.
Ms. Walden?
Here.
Ms. Shinholster?
Here.
Mr. Reynolds?
Here.
We do have a quorum present. If you can, you stamp me for the prayer and pledge.
Done this in a while.
I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Precious Lord, we thank you for this day. We thank you for continuing to give us the strength and the courage to meet together to be able to do the works of the city and to take care of your people. We ask these things, Lord, that you continue to bless us even in the midst of this pandemic. Be with those that have lost loved ones. Be with those that are still yet struggling with it. Father, I'm so grateful and I'm so thankful how you have covered this family, my family, the whole community of Milledgeville, Baldwin County throughout this pandemic. It is these and many more blessings we ask in your name. Amen.
Amen.
So you all have a copy of the May 12, 2020 council meeting minutes and the May 19, 2020 called council meeting minutes. Are there any corrections? Do I hear a motion to adopt these minutes?
So move.
Second.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Mullins?
Aye.
Mr. Chambers?
Aye.
Dr. Lee?
Aye.
Ms. Walden?
Aye.
Mrs. Shinholster?
Aye.
Mr. Reynolds?
Aye.
All right, the minutes are approved. There is no old business on the agenda tonight, so I will move to the new business. I will ask the clerk to read ordinance O-2005-02 by caption as a first read. This ordinance amendment amends the Land Development Code to allow special use of 200 North Columbia Street.
An ordinance amending the ordinance passed and adopted on the 10th day of December 2002, known as the Land Development Code of the City of Milledgeville, Georgia. Ordinance granting a special use for a sorority with 15 residents at 200 North Columbia Street.
All right, you have heard the ordinance, and at this time, we're going to turn that over to our Planning and Zoning Commission to report back to us at the second read. The next item is Resolution R-2005-27. This resolution will allow sidewalk dining outside restaurants in downtown. At previous meetings, we discussed the idea and the possibility of being presented to council in ordinance form. However, because we are allowing outdoor dining as a temporary measure with a well-defined July 31st end date, it is being presented as a resolution and not becoming part of the Code of Ordinance. Clerk, if you will, please read the ordinance out loud.
To allow sidewalk dining in designated public areas of the city, to set forth an application procedure, establish criteria for serving alcohol in open containers in the designated area, and for other purposes.
Now, you all have heard the resolution. Is there a motion to adopt?
So moved.
Second.
The resolution is approved. Oh, sorry. Did I call the roll? Call the roll, clerk, please.
Discussion first.
Any discussion on this motion? R-2005-27 about the sidewalk dining?
Mayor, I have a question.
Oh, I'm sorry. I
have a question. Last time we spoke about this, we were speaking of the open containers on the sidewalk, and there were some things we were going to get looked into. Is this still in connection with the sidewalk?
Mr. Griffin, can you answer?
Yes, it is. Well, in terms of what you brought up about you're talking about underage drinking? I'm sorry.
Right.
Okay. They were not specifically looked into because the bars have not been open for that to happen, for us to be able to, in an investigative situation with that. I did mention it to Chief Swigert. Typically when those issues occur, they occur through the Department of Revenue and not through our local police department. And he only finds out about them after the fact. But no active investigation was done on it simply because the bars were not open at the time in order to be able to do that.
So, will you be getting back with us in reference to that?
I have no problem with the sidewalk dining, but I do have a problem with the open containers of alcohol beverages. Okay, thank you.
How many people have shown interest? How many of our restaurants have shown interest in doing this? I know they were not interested in going across the street or other places, but now how many do we have that are interested in doing it?
When Carly did the telephone poll with the restaurants downtown, this was the one thing they were interested in. As you said, they weren't interested in the parking lots or the parking decks or those things, but the opportunity to be able to set up tables outside of their business was something that they were very interested in. And probably about at least 50, maybe closer to 70% of those folks that Carly spoke with were also interested in being able to serve the alcohol at those tables. So that was the reason it was brought back up to you all. But we're going to have. We're most likely going to have some restaurants, as we've already discussed, on the south side of the 100 block of West Hancock that probably are not going to be able to do it and meet ADA requirements. But the way the ordinance is read or written, it simply says that a minimum passage area has to be maintained. And if that minimum passage area is not maintained, based on the schematics that they put in their application, then their temporary permit will be pulled at that point in time. So easily about 75%, and that's just off the top of my head, but easily about 70 to 75% were interested in trying to do the sidewalk dining in front of their businesses.
Any more discussion on this?
Did you come up with a set distance, for the passing?
36 inches is what is being used by the city of Alpharetta and the city of Charleston, South Carolina. Brookhaven, that I looked at pretty hard as we were looking at getting this resolution written. They do not have a specific width for passage area. They just say that ADA requirements must continue to be met. So, as I mentioned at the last meeting, or maybe even the meeting before that, depending on who you ask and what the situation is, ADA is anywhere from 36 inches to 60 inches, depending on whether it's rehabbed areas, depending on whether it's new construction areas, depending on whether it's within a historic district. I mean, it can vary depending on what the situation is, but I feel like 36 inches should work, and that's what I would be looking at in terms of trying to make sure that an open passage area was available of 36 inches.
And in those 36 inches, Mr. Griffith, I want to know, because I saw some tables out in front of one of these places downtown. Should it just be in front of their restaurant, or can it go over in front of another business down there?
It can go over in front of another business based on this resolution, but they have to have that property owner's permission in order to do that.
Okay. I would like it. I don't know about the rest of the council. If you could look into the open container part that they're going to utilize when they're outside, as to what, because I think we brought it up last time for us, beverage-wise, what they were serving or what could not be served, I believe.
Well, the resolution says that, I'm sorry, Gina. The resolution says that once all of the tableware is removed, if there are any alcoholic beverage open containers, they have to be removed at the same time as well. So it's not like they're going.
They can't leave with the patron.
Right.
The cup.
Right.
They can't walk up and down the street with it.
And
I'm sorry, Jimmy. You know I read.
It also says that those that are waiting, whether to dine indoors or outdoors, cannot be served alcoholic beverages and be able to sit outside and just
sit down with a drink.
Yeah.
Right, it says it must be with a meal.
Yeah.
Unless they get the ball.
With the corkscrew, huh? Okay. All right.
We went, Mr. Denuser and I went through great pains putting this resolution together to try to figure out every way that somebody might try to beat it.
Yeah.
He was not clear. As I was reviewing it with him, there were a couple of things that we had put in the resolution that he was not completely clear the definition on, which made us clarify it in the resolution, which was good.
Well, I think if it's taken in light of the way it's intended, and that is for the benefit of both patrons and businesses, in that it creates some safe space, plus a little bit of a different atmosphere of being able to dine outside. It wouldn't have been too good today, but there certainly will be days that it will pay off between now and the end of July.
So if the only way that they can have the alcoholic beverage or whatever would be at their table.
That's correct. While they're
And
eating
when they
them.
leave,
with
they
their
have
meal.
to leave it there.
That's right.
Yes, sir.
Any more discussion on that?
Mayor, I will, just to answer Dr. Lee's question a little bit further than yours, I will see if we can determine the number of cases made by the Department of Revenue on underage drinking in downtown in the last 12 months. Give you all that information.
All right, no further discussion. I'll ask clerk to please call the roll on that resolution.
Mr. Mullins?
Aye.
Mr. Chambers?
Aye.
Dr. Lee?
No.
Mrs. Walden?
Aye.
Ms. Shinholster?
Aye.
Mr. Reynolds?
Aye.
The resolution is approved. We don't have any appointments to make, but we do have an alcohol license application to consider, and I'll ask the clerk to please read that aloud.
This is for Raquel Torres on behalf of Jalisco Mexican Grill No. 2 Incorporated, located at 2400 North Columbia Street, Suite A11. And this is for beer, wine, liquor, Sunday sales, consumption on premises.
You all have heard the application. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Is this at the mall?
Yeah, that's what I was talking
Yes, ma'am.
about.
I kinda thought so by the address. I was just checking.
Ready for roll call? Mr. Mullins? Aye. Mr. Chambers?
Aye.
Dr. Lee?
Aye.
Ms. Walden?
Aye.
Mrs. Shinholster?
Aye.
Mr. Reynolds?
Aye.
All right, the application is approved. All right, the final item on tonight's agenda is a closed session. Do I hear a motion to go into closed session to discuss a personnel matter?
So moved.
Second.
All right, we will this time go into closed session.
Ready?
Yeah.
Adjourn the closed session and return to regular session.
Second.
Danusa, you can call the roll when you get caught up there.
Let's see, Mr. Mullins?
Here.
Mrs. Chambers? Here. Dr. Lee?
Oh, boy.
Mrs.
She's moving
Walden?
her lips, but you can't.
Ms. Shinholster?
Here.
Mr. Reynolds?
Here.
All right, so we have officially returned to open session. Is there any further business that needs to be brought before council tonight? All right, as always, I want to continue to do the good work, continue to, I don't know, we're hammering it in people's mind. I shared an email with Hank about when you do the work at the beginning, it makes the end part smooth. And so I guess we'll just have to continue to encourage people to do the CDC techniques. Can't make anybody wear a mask, but for other people's protection and your own, please do so. We do follow those guidelines here at the city. So,
Mayor,
nothing else?
let me say one more thing, just as an information piece for y'all. GMA has put together a wonderful survey that we will be completing by the end of the week and turning the information in on, that will be utilized for the city to receive our amount based on per capita population and income from the first round of the CARE Act from the COVID-19 legislation. So I don't know how much that will be yet, but GMA has made it very easy for us to be able to get it, even to the point of it being direct deposited into our bank account. Once I have a feel for how much that will be, I will certainly report that to you, and I'll keep y'all informed of how that process goes. So we'll also be doing some GMA reimbursement requests too, for some of the PPE that we purchased, as well as some of the overtime that law enforcement and the fire department had during this time.
So do we need to get you our account numbers?
Absolutely.
Yeah, right.
No.
Let him go off the pen by
I'm telling you, no.
All right, well, that be all tonight. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Madam Mayor, make a motion, we adjourn the meeting.
Second.
Meeting adjourned.